So I said basically, here's the data path. I tell you how the whole data path works. And then the problem on the exam was going to resemble something where I was going to say, give me a reduced MIPS data path, which does a certain set of instructions, right? So we're going to work through these together. So in this case, this question 5.2 asks, give me one that only does load word. Now, I'm going to deliberately scroll down because we're going to work up this together on the board. Okay? And you're going to tell me how to do it because we're going to go through like 5 or 6 of these problems today. And then you're going to learn how to make these decisions. And I want you to think about this question more like an engineer and less like you're just memorizing. Right? Even though, yes, this is quite the memorization problem. So we are doing a load word, a MIPS, reduced MIPS data path that implements load word instructions only. What's the first thing you should do when you do, other than erase the board? Okay, that's gross. What's the first thing you should do? Very first thing you should do. Huh? PC, right? Compiler-driven encoding of the micro engine. The program counter is the compiler telling you where the instruction will start. And because of that, what's the next thing you should draw? The program counter tells you where the instruction will start. Where the instruction will start. IM. What does IM stand for? Instruction memory, right? So the program counter is going to point to your ADDR address, and then IM, big instruction memory, and then INSTR coming out here is instruction. Right? What's the other thing that goes on with PC plus 4? What goes right? Do a little 4 here, do a little adder, right? Now here's the question. Does this combination of instructions include a branching? Does it include jumping? So do I need a branch or jump multiplexer? So I don't need to do any, concatenate the instruction. I don't need to do any, it just goes right back. And I hope it's not that easy on the exam. We'll see. All right, so now what? What should I do next? Hold on. You are correct. That's something you should do. But I'm going to try to encourage a habit here. What's the next thing you should do? You come out of instruction, controller. Draw your controller. Very good. That's the habit. All right. Datapath will not work without a control, so you must do that. All right. Now, so specifically, how do I do the registers here? Separate it out. Okay, okay, you all telling me how do I do this? Remember, this is load word. 25 to 21, right? If you recall, opcode is 31 to 26. RS is 25 to 21. In fact, I would highly recommend 20 to 16 and then immediate, right? So you look at your green sheet and you see that load words are I-type instructions, and that's the format, right? And we will refer to this as we go on because it will help you make better decisions. All right, so 25, 21, where does that go to in register? Read register 1, right? Read RR1. And so where is 20 to 16 going to go to? What are we doing in a load word instruction? What is a load word instruction physically doing? Pulling memory from data. Yeah, pulling from the data memory and storing it in the register, right? So storing, here's a good way of thinking in your head will help you with this problem. Storing to data memory, writing to the registers. So in this case, load word is pulling from data memory, as we said, and writing to the register. The reason I'm very distinct about that is, am I reading from a second register here? No. So read reg 2 has nothing going to it. So you've got the write register. Am I making any kind of decision as to what's going to the write register in this case? No, why not? That is correct, but why not? This is overthinking the problem. Yeah, we don't have to make any kind of decision. So the whole goal is you want to reduce it to demonstrate, okay, well, if I have an R-type and I-type instruction, I don't need to make certain decisions. So in this case, I'll have an I-type, and this goes to 20 to 16, right? And then I'll write data, which will come back later. Now what's going to happen is I'm doing 15 to 0, right? Because of the immediate. So this is going to be registers. And so what comes in here? What do I need to do? If I'm doing load word, as you're saying, and I'm writing to the registers, what control signal do I need to use? That's right, very good. So what am I doing to this 15 to 0 value? Sign extend, very good. So it comes out, comes up here. Read register 1, so this becomes read data 1. Technically, you only need write read register 2. So read data 1 comes out here. This goes to the what? The ALU. Do I need ALU control? I hear some yeses and some nos. Why yes? Okay, so you're going to add, but what is the ALU? What is the ALU? I'm sorry, not the ALU. No, ALU. You do need the ALU control. For those of you who said that, that's right. ALU control. Oh, all my trick questions too early. What about ALU's ALU source? Do I need ALU source? No, because I'm not making a decision to read data 2. So this goes into ALU, right? ALU control goes here, indicate it's 4 bits. You have your 2-bit ALU op, right? And so then what's going to happen is this is going to go to your data memory. Right? And then, so am I reading the data memory in the load word instruction? Yes, I am. Very good. So I need a memory. Am I writing to the data memory in an output instruction? No. So I do not need memwrite. Am I making a decision between the output of the ALU and the data memory? Do I have the result of the ALU coming over here to go back to the registers? No. So do I need the memory to register controller? I do a lot of that. My goodness, you think it's just you, but it's like 20 people. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like something dying over here. Like, so you don't need that, right? Someone please say yes or no. Thank you. Very good. I keep hearing. That's a new one. I've heard a lot of things, but not a lot. Okay, so this is going to come back, and this goes to your write data. And for those of you who will be watching this later on the computer, that's the solution right there. Yes, I think. Why is the ALU control not connected to anything else? Because it's controlling the ALU only. So the ALU controller receives the 2 bits from the ALU op, which is being generated by the control, and controls the arithmetic logic in it. So somebody asked me in the last lecture, why don't I have all the lines? You can technically do that if you really wanted to. You could go res write, memory, right. You can do that. See, that's kind of becoming a pain in the butt really quick there. And then if I ask you a problem that requires 6 or 7 of the control signals, see, that could get. So basically, I'm asking you to draw the controller and just do those little tacks like I've done here on the screen to indicate that. So that should, the whole goal should be to make that simple. All right, so that. Okay, so this is kind of the, I'll erase that too. This is kind of your subset that you'll need for all of them. Yes, Emily. Okay. This is kind of the subset that you'll need for all of them. From everything else, it just boils down to what would be used less or more later on, depending on the type of instruction, right? You'll always need a program counter. You will always need the instruction memory. You always need this PC plus 4. You'll always need the registers. You'll always need the controller. So the next question, that was 5.2. And here I kind of make this little, you don't have to include this, but I always make these little writing justifications here. Why am I taking certain things out? Why am I leaving certain things in? Right. So store word instructions. So this one's now store word. So same thing. I have read register 1. Right? I'm sorry, this should have written 31 to 26 here. So it's 25 to 21. I'm not writing to the register, right? I'm reading from the register, so I'm using 20 to 16. I have 16 to 0 coming out here, and 15 to 0 coming out here, which I sign extend. These go to the ALU. I don't need to use ALU source because I am not making a decision between an R type and an I type instruction. So they both go to the arithmetic logic unit. Which is controlled by a 4-bit input, which comes in from the ALU control. Right? And this has a 2-bit ALU op input. Now this goes to the address in data memory, right? I don't have anything coming out because it's just a store word instruction, so I don't need memory to register, correct? I'm not reading from memory, but I am writing to the memory, so I will require memwrite. And here's the last part. So if you look at your green sheet on your exam, it's taking a value from read data 2 and storing it to the data memory, correct? So it's writing to data memory. The result's going to be RD2 is going to come out here. Address and data for data memory. See that? And then the one thing I still need to do is do the PC plus 4 that goes back, right? So this one's 31 to 26, 25 to 21. I'm not writing to a register, so I'm not including reg write. I am not deciding between an R type and I type instructions, so I don't need register destination. I am not reading from data memory, so I don't need memwrite. I am not branching or jumping, so I don't need branch or jump. Correct? I don't need mem to register because I'm not taking anything from the data memory or ALU and storing it or writing it to the register. I do need ALU op because in order to complete a load word or store word instruction, I need to perform an addition in the ALU, correct? So that's why the ALU control to ALU RD2 is where your data comes from. You see how on the screen, I'm doing the same thing. I got a PC plus 4, PC, read address, instruction memory, 32 bits, 31 to 26, 25 to 21, 20 to 16 is going to read register. I'm reading the register and writing it to the data memory. Read register 1, this is 25 to 21 here. I say reg write, I wrote reg write equals 0 there. You can leave it off. Both are acceptable. So this goes to 15 to 0. That says sign extend. This becomes 32 bits and is the second input to the ALU. So mem write is being used. I have a 2-input ALU op, a 4-bit output that goes to the arithmetic logic unit. Yes?
Can you explain real quick why we need the 3 registers for store word?
Yes, because I'm going to ask you that same question. I want you to walk through this data path with me. All right, let's walk through it together. So this is a good type of question because you're trying to put the engineering type stuff. So what's values being used for read register 1? Where's that going? Look at the data path. Come on, you aspire to be an electrical engineer, right? So electrical engineer, what? Follow the advanced digital system through. Okay, register data 1, read data 1, which goes to the. All right, so that goes to the ALU, correct? So what's the second input for the ALU? All right, so what am I doing there? I am.
Offset.
Yes, offset. So you have your base pointer to your array and your offset. So you've now created a pointer to a specific location in data memory. Where's read register 2 coming from? I'm going to RD2. And where's this value going to? To the data. So what am I actually doing with it? What is the store word instruction? Boom, there it is. Yeah, there you go. What he's asking about is here, this aspect. I'm taking something from registers and storing them into the data memory.
So it's because you need to, like the first read register, or the first RD1 would be giving you your address, and RD2 would be.
Yeah, if you think back to see, RD1 contains the value of your base pointer to your array. 15 to 0, sign extended to 32, that's your offset. And that is how you actually physically create a pointer in C or C++. And then it's like, okay, well, what am I doing with it? In case of store word, I am actually taking a value from the registers and writing it to the data memory. Because these are the fast registers. This improves my performance, high performance execution of compiled code. Here's your compiled code. And data memory is where you had all your, cache hierarchy, direct and set associativity, and eventually goes on to the other non-volatile memory. Any other questions about that? All right. So here we have load word and store word. So this is where you're going to start seeing some decisions being made. So you do the same thing. You can write out all your registers. You don't need to worry about data memory at the moment. All right, so we're doing load word and store word. Oh, and then y'all want to pay attention to me. All right. So it's load word and store word, right? They're both I-type instructions. So now this is where you have to start thinking like an engineer. Break out of the I'm a sophomore, I'm just going to copy and memorize everything. Because you all aspire to be engineers. So this is where you start thinking, okay, so I got my program counter, I got my PC+4, I got my instruction. All right, I got load word and store word. What type of instruction is it as a load word? IType. What type of instruction is store word? IType. Okay, so we're going to go through each of these. So 25 to 21, I'm going to need that in both either one of those instructions, right? Or 26 to 20. 21 to 26, 25 to 21. Yeah. Am I going to have to read from a register in either load word or a store word instruction? Which one? Store word, very good. That equals 2016. Am I writing to a register in either a load word or a store word instruction? Load, very good. So you are, do I have to make a decision between writing register from 2016 or 15 to 11? You do? You all are just saying, you all are just throwing out yeses and nos now. You should answer yes because or no because that's how you got to do it on the exam, right? Correct, because it's load word, very good. Because it's an IType instruction. You don't only need to write 15 to 11 in what type of instruction? R-type, very good. So far so good, right? Those of you who are trying to copy instead of think like engineers, see so far we're doing that. All right, so this means, okay. So what is this value going to be right here? Sign extended of what? 15 to 0. We're going to sign extend that to 32 bits. And then we have RD1 is always going to go to the ALU, correct? So you can draw your ALU because you know you have to add them together. Label it as an ALU, so I know that you know what it is. What's the second input going to be for a load word instruction? Sign extended. What's the second input going to be for the store word instruction? So do I need a multiplexer to differentiate between the same thing? So ALU source is gone. Right? That's how that decision is made. So it doesn't become branch, doesn't become jump, so we can move it back just like I have there. And where's the result of the ALU going? Oh no, I did something else. Am I going to write to a register in either a load word or a store word instruction? Which one? Y'all got confident. You saw my eyes, right? What is a load word instruction? From data memory to registers, right? What is a store word instruction? Sal?
From register to data.
Very good. So I want to write to the register. If it's 0, it's going to be a store word instruction. If it's 1, it's going to be a load word instruction. So you use the control signals in instances where you need to make some kind of decision. And what's the logic structure? They use, like for ALU source, what was this logic structure here? Starts with an M. Multiplexer, very good. So where does the output of the ALU go to? Specifically, we're in data memory? Address, ADDR, very good. Right? So you have data memory. And do I write to the data memory in a load or store word? Which one? Store word, very good. Okay, so I do need mem write. Am I going to read from data memory and load word or store word? Which one? Load word, very good. So it becomes mem read. So since I'm writing to the register, where is that information coming from? So this is I'm writing data to data memory, right? So where is the data coming from? RD2 in the store word instruction, very good. And in the load word instruction, since I'm getting it from, so this would be, you could say this is write data, and you could say this is read data. And this result here comes here. Am I making any decision between the data memory output and the arithmetic logic unit output? No. So this is going to come back through here. And it's going to go to your write data. Last thing I need here is I do need, okay, this is my 4 bits here, and this is my ALU control, which has, what's the input here? 2-bit ALU. I'm trying to do anything silly. Yep, we got it right. Very good. Is this starting to make sense how you should be thinking about these things? Everything that you've learned up to this point has been pieces of the advanced digital system. The purpose of this section is to start putting the advanced digital system together. So you understand that the pieces of the data memory, we're using DRAM because we need to have a write signal and a read signal. We know that registers are SRAM, so you only need a write signal. We knew from our top-level guide objectives that we have a 4-foot input, which controls potential 16 calculations that we can control in the ALU, right? So now we know the ALU, we know we have 2 inputs. We know our ALU controller from another top-level guide objective. We had our TGR that tells us what's inside the controller. We know our types of instructions. That's another top-level guide objective. We know sign extension. We haven't got to shift left logical yet, but we will. We know that about bind addressing. So we're going to be taking care of all of that. But you see how these pieces are now starting to come together? So there's your beginning of all your instructions. So 6.5 is, oh no, it should be 5.5. Because I forgot to renumber. 5.5, draw a single cycle data path that does R-type and addi instructions. So this is, so my recommendation, and when you do this type of problem on the exam, you do R-type is an R instruction. What is addi? What type of instruction is add immediate? I-type. Very good. So for an R-type instruction, I have opcode, RS, RT, RD, shift amount, and function, right? And an I-type instruction, opcode, RS, RT, and immediate. So as you're going through this, you want to start making these kinds of decisions, which require some knowledge of the data path beyond simply memorization. You actually have to understand what the advanced digital system is actually doing. All right, so first thing I do, program counter, do my PC plus 4. In this combination of R-type and add immediate, am I branching? No. Am I jumping? So I do not need branch or jump, correct? So you can send this right back here. So far, so good. 31 to 26 always goes to the control. So now we have 25 to 21. Where does that go? Looking at this right here. Yeah, it always goes to read register 1. See how they're both going to the same place? So this you have to make those decisions about it's going to the same place. So 25 to 21 goes to read register 1. What about 20 to 16? Read register 2, 4. See, hold on. I'm going to stop you right here. This is where you need to start thinking like the engineer, right? This is what I did. The whole point of this problem is to break a mentality and replace it with the mentality that will serve you better in your career. So I said, where does 20 to 16 go? And I went down. Read, register 2. You're still kind of in that memorization mentality, right? I want you to actually think about it. Where does 20 to 16 go in your type of your in this combination? Okay, now you're on the right path, right? So we have to have some sort of multiplexer eventually. But still, you're thinking about it. I'm saying, where does 20 to 16 go? If you look at the previous problem, see how it splits up? Because you have a bus split. So it can be used for two different things. So that's where you go back to your instructions. So if just thinking about it, where it goes, to think about how 2016 is being used by all the instructions. That's why it's called, what's the name of this course? So think of it more of an advanced type of thinking. What is 20 to 16 being used for? Instructions for RT for, what is RT and R-type being used for? Second, other source, right? So we got read register 2. So if you're using that's going to go 20 to 16, right? But what's it being used for in the I-type instruction? Destination. Very good. Very good. So now I have RD. Is that my only destination register that I'm using? 20 to 16? What's the other one I'm using? I heard somebody mumbling it. 15 to 11, right? So I have 20 to 16 and 15 to 11 here. So how am I going to choose between those? Multiplexer. So if it's 0, it's I-type, 1, it's R-type. How am I controlling it? Register what? No, that's what. Okay, so this again. Let's think through the terms. I'm controlling it for. So this is register right. So what am I? So it's not a source. It is a. There we go. Destination. So it's register. Destination. Basically, what you just said is Frodo and Samwise, their destination was the Shire. No, it's not Doom, right? So we got to figure out how to do that. So now, am I writing to the registers in an R-type instruction? Yes. Yes, very good. Yes. What about I-type? Yeah, very good. So definitely need reg right here. Indicate that you know these are registers. So write data will come from somewhere eventually. So what about here? What's going on down here now? Think advanced. So we originally have 15 to 0, right? Am I using 15 to 0 in an R-type or I-type instruction? Yes. How specifically? This is where it's going to get more and more complicated. Think through. Always go back to this. Remember, this is on your green sheet that will be on your exam. So this is 15 to 0 right here, correct? So you have to make all of this work. So you just think about it. Emily, when you come to my office hours, I tell you to break it into pieces, right? Don't get overwhelmed by this. Break it into pieces. Take the advanced digital system, break it down into your knowledge from the top of guide objectives, and then build it back up. Right? So here, we have 15 to 0. So we have a sign extension, right? And that comes from our I-type. That's kind of the same thing. We got sound extension 32-bit. But what else are we using 15 to 0 for? From R type. Well, RD we've already taken care of. What else? Shift amount, function, and yeah, shift amount and function. That's just amount. Okay, so we have to do this. So 5 to 0 is our function, right? And that goes to our ALU control. And we have our 2-bit ALU out input. Now you see the difference here? In the previous problem, we don't have a function input, right? You see we don't have 5 to 0 here. Why is that? Because it's I-type instruction. Here we have it because it's an R-type instruction. So then we have our 32-bit value. This is 15 to 0. So we have our 32-bit value is going to come up here. And so we draw this arithmetic logic unit, which we need because it's both an R-type and an I-type instruction. Make that a little cleaner. What about shift amount? What is the shift amount? They put a shift left or the shift right. What bits is it in the R-type instruction? 10 to 6, very good. And where does it go? I heard somebody mumbling it. Yes, very good. To the ALU, right? So then this becomes 10 to 6. So now you can form shift amounts, right? ALU control has a 4-bit output that goes to the ALU. Make sure you label it as ALU. I know that you know what it is. So you start to see the difference. You see how we're putting these pieces together. So now we have our shift amount. Now we have our function taken care of. I've got RS, RT, RS, and RT done for both R-type and I-type instructions, correct? So you do that, you check it all off, and you're good to go. So now we have read data 1 and read data 2. Where does read data 1 go? Read data 1, very simple, always to the ALU. What's my second input to the ALU? I'm calling somebody here, Chris Carpenter. Give it a try. What is or are my inputs to the ALU? The second input. Better to try and get it wrong now. RD2. Okay, RD2 is what? Is used when? Okay, so that's from the R-type instruction. Yeah. What about my other possible input? I'm going to ask you my Matthew McConaughey. We hope you get this question. All right. I'm still on that. Don't look behind you, Chris. I'm going to ask you eventually on a quiz and or test. Better to get it wrong now. Just try. Did I tell you when you said it's not stored, I go, oh, Chris, you terrible human being. Right? No shame. I just want you to work through it. Make the mistakes now. Very good, see? And because it's what type of instruction it's used for? No, R-type came from here, so that means it's I-type. So, someone help them out. What am I doing here now? What's my multiplexer? Very good. 0 for R-type, 1 for R-type, and the control signal is? ALU source, very good. Right. So now you have your ALU source, and that goes to your second input of your ALU. am I reading from or writing to data memory in an R type or add immediate instruction? To data memory? No, that's not correct. You're writing data to, in the register, R type instruction. What is the definition of an R type instruction? You're taking two values from a register, performing some operation, and putting it in a register. Where does the result from I type instruction go? To the register. So do I need data memory? No. This problem's kind of easy. So this goes to the write data. And read write, got the source, got the destination, got the controller, and WAP. I think I'm good. Yep, as soon as you guys got it right. Yes?
So what exactly is LU source deciding between? So if it was choosing, it's deciding whether it's adding to another register, whether two registers within operated on or a register.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay, and then, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I thought you were done. Sorry, I have another question in the back. Go ahead.
Could we go over again about the register destination thing, that whole?
Okay, so, absolutely right. R type and I type instruction. So, we have to decide whether or not when Frodo and Samwise get some Mountain Dew, right? So you have to throw it in there. So here, RD and RT is for I type. So RD is where we are writing, the register we're writing to in R type instruction. In RT, we have to decide if it's that case for I type, since it's an add immediate, right? So the result is I have to make that decision between 15 to 11, which is RD, and 20 to 16, which is RT. So I use register destination to determine which destination I'm going to.
Oh. On the previous lecture, you said something about ALU op 1 and ALU op 0.
Two input ALU op.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all these coming of ALU op and these all come from control, right?
Correct.
Is there ever be a situation where we have more than 6 bits? We're going to more structures than we have, like let's say, control has to be 6 bits, right?
Yeah.
So, whether we have too many structures, we have enough control signals?
No, we have 9 total control signals in the next data path, right? So, but it's the combination of which ones will come out as a result of the AND. Yeah. So to answer your question, no, that will never, that situation will never happen. If you're a good engineer. Any other questions? All right. So, on the exam, expect to be able to do a single cycle data path that can do one or more than one instruction. For a second assignment, so you're going to have the opportunity to get 2 assignments today. Yeah. So I want you to do all the normal TGOs, but then I want you to create a combination that's different and do your own. Just like we did with the C code, I want you to design your own problem. R type and load word. Branch. Okay, the one combination, I should be very clear. The one combination you're not allowed to use is branch and jump. That's way too easy, right? Y'all are laughing enough. Guess what? That means you understand the advanced digital system now, right? So believe it or not, you might feel like you're struggling now, but now I'm telling nerdy jokes and you get them. So addi and load word, branch and store word, R type and branch equivalent. See how that makes sense? Put 2 combinations together, make your own problem, try to solve it, and justify your results. right, so up to this point, I've talked about this concept of single cycle and how everything's being done in one clock cycle, right? So up to this point, our advanced system is we have something issued from our instruction memory as a result of where it's being pointed to with the program counter. It goes to our registers and our controller. Our controller determines the result of our control signal. We have the registers coming out. We have our site extend immediate. We go to the ALU control using our function. Our shift them out register to the ALU. We have the result of the ALU going both to the address in data memory and as to the memory to mem to register controller. We have data memory of memory, memwrite, and then it comes back. To this point, we've done everything, and all of that is done in one clock cycle, correct? So pipelining is we're trying to make it go faster and faster and faster and faster. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to have one stage of an instruction in each stage of the data path. So we're going to get even more advanced digital systems here. This is important because as we start in a couple weeks after your exam, we start getting into the cadence stuff, and we start getting into Tensilica labs, and you're starting to learn how Verilog works in System C. A lot of this has to do with how do you take advantage of the data path in order to pipeline it. Okay. So what is pipelining? Pipelining is basically, so I have my data path, and I have in 5 stages, right? Fetch, decode, execute, memory, and write back. So we're going to see is we're going to have an instruction where it's going to do in 5 quicker cycles. So we have subtract. Let me make this red. And then it's going to delay a cycle, and they're going to be off by 1. So at this case, it's at this time. So this is instructions by time. So what this means is that at this time, it's doing the fetch of the subtraction instruction, which is the second one here, and the decode of the add instruction simultaneously. And the goal is, in a perfect, we're going to do a proof on this. The goal is to, ideally, you want to have 5 instructions in the data path simultaneously. And, but that will cause some issues, and we'll talk about those later. So the basic concepts of pipelining. The first one is divide the data path into nearly equal tasks to be performed serially and requiring non-overlapping resources. This non-overlapping resources, as you're going to learn later on in this section, is a very important concept. You cannot use the same resource in the same cycle twice. Meaning you can't write to the register in 2 instructions simultaneously. You can't access the ALU simultaneously twice. You can't use data memory twice. These are known as hazards. Once you start doing that, then you can no longer guarantee the correct operation of the instruction. So we're going to start talking about that. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to insert registers between the task boundaries. So the reason why we've been breaking, even though it's one site, one data path, and we've talked about these stages, fetch, decode, execute, memory, write back. The reason why I broke it down in the TGOs was not just to help you kind of learn to understand how the single cycle data path works, but how to break everything down when we get to pipelining. So we're going to insert registers at these task boundaries in the data path, where the registers pass the output data from one task as input data to the next task. So example, instruction fetch, first stage. Program counter goes to the instruction memory, outputs a 32-bit instruction, right? Until the register is going to hold the instruction until the end of the clock cycle, and then move it on at the next clock cycle. So that way that goes to then 3126, 2521, 2016, and so on. Synchronize tasks with a clock, having a cycle time that just exceeds the time required by the longest task. So what we're going to find out is that the instruction that takes the most resources in the data path is load word. And the reason why it's load word essentially requires everything. It doesn't require branch and jump, obviously. But it does require instruction fetch. It does require instruction decode. It requires the ALU. It requires getting data memory. And it also requires the write back. So store word, remember, doesn't use that mem to reg. So we're going to be learning about something during cadence called multi-cycle, where it's going to be kind of a compromise between single cycle and pipelining, where it's going to try to reduce the amount of overhead in terms of area, but with a trade-off in performance. In MIPS, since the main goal of MIPS is the high-performance execution of compiled code, we're going straight to pipeline. So we're going to show, all right, we're going to go fast, 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 fast. But the trade-off is we're going to gain some area. And then last is break each instruction down in a fixed number of stages. In MIPS, that's 5, so that instructions can be executed in staggered fashion. Instruction fetch, instruction decode, execute, memory, and write back. So I'm going to scroll past the first 2 bullet points and show you this diagram here. So what's going on? So we have a load word instruction, store word in R-type format. In single cycle data path, they're going to make the cycle last as long as the longest instruction. Makes sense, right? If you made it the length of the shortest instruction, then the other instructions wouldn't be able to complete. So in this case, we state that the instruction fetch takes 2 stages, the decode takes 1 nanosecond, execution takes 2 nanoseconds, data access requires 2 nanoseconds, and then write back requires 1 nanosecond, right? So you add all those together, and it requires 8 nanoseconds. So in the case of store word, I need fetch, decode, execute, and data memory, but I'm storing to data memory, right? I don't need the write back. Same thing with R-type. I don't need data. I don't need to access the data memory. If we go to branch and jump, I don't need data memory access because I'm not writing to data, and I don't need to write back because I'm not writing to the registers. Branch, you're just calculating it. If we were doing this, the output, what happens is you're getting read data 1, right? And you're getting it from your, so you're getting read data 2. And those are both going to your ALU to do your comparison. Your sign extended 16-bit value is coming up here. And it's going to be added with the PC plus 4, right? That output is going to come here. And then if the comparison is so, the control signal is ANDed with branch. Right, and then you have 1 and 0, and if the branch is going to go back here. So you're not writing to data memory, correct, in branch, and you're not writing back to the ALU. You're going to a different instruction entirely. So in single cycle, what this is saying is that, well, we're trying to make it all one cycle, so what would happen is we complete the branch equivalent in 5 nanoseconds, and then we're just waiting 3 nanoseconds until the next instruction is complete, correct? So that's why every single cycle is going to be 8 nanoseconds in this case. So what's going to happen here in pipelining, I'm sorry, this is single cycle. So what happens is no matter what, if this were add, in this case, this is 3 load words, but it's going to take 8 nanoseconds, 8 nanoseconds, 8 nanoseconds, and the total execution time is going to be 24 nanoseconds, right? Does that make sense to everybody before I move on? So what pipelining is trying to do is overlapping these together. So here, why is this 10? So if we go back to the previous stage, what happens is we're going to try to break it down into near equal tasks, right? So we're going to pick the longest task, and that's going to be our new cycle time. So this is going to be 2 nanoseconds, 2 nanoseconds, 2 nanoseconds, 2 nanoseconds, and 2 nanoseconds. So that's going to become 10 nanoseconds. But I have these registers in between each stage, right? So that means once I've moved this data on, I can reuse the instruction memory. I can just get the next instruction automatically, right? So what's going to happen here is you're going to see this load word instruction is going to take 10 nanoseconds, but so is this one. But see how they're overlapping? So what ends up happening is instead of taking 24 nanoseconds like we had before, it's now only taking 14. So we have an improvement in performance of 1.7. Does that make sense? All right, so 5.6. Let me zoom in on this one. By the way, I didn't do it, but I'll do my little thing here. Expect to see that again. This is a pretty important proof. So, the problem states, assuming n computations, k stages, actually, you know what? Hold on, I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing before. Because y'all are going to copy that, and y'all are not going to understand it. All right, so the problem states, assuming n computations with k stages in an ideal simple linear pipe where TSC is the clock period for single cycle, derives the equation for speed up compared to a non-pipeline and its throughput where the clock cycle for a single cycle is TSC and pipeline is TP, right? So we're going to figure this out. I'm still telling you, you still aren't paying attention. Goodness. Every shortcut. All right, so what's actually going on here? So for a single cycle, we're going to have the number, we got the number of computations or the number of instructions, right? So right off the bat, we just know it's n. So this, and we know that each instruction is going to take the length of the single cycle time, right? So it's going to be multiplied by t single cycle. Does that make sense? So for the pipeline, this is where I want you all to understand. So I have the number of instructions, right? So how would I actually figure this out? So we know that at some point everything's going to be multiplied by the cycle time of the pipeline, right? So thinking back to your definition from before, what's actually going on here? No. No, this is why I'm having, this is why that exact concept there is exactly why I'm not showing you the solution right now. But the question is, why not n over k? So the way it works is I have, let's say I have 4 instructions. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. First instruction, and each cycle is going to take t sub p, right? So I got fetch, decode, execute, memory, and write back. Ideal pipeline, right? This is ideal. We don't have any hazards or anything. Fetch, decode, execute, memory, write back. Fetch, decode, execute, memory, write back. Fetch, decode, execute, memory, write back. Right? So, how many cycles did each one take? So, first one we got done in how many cycles? 5. What about 2 instructions? What about 3 instructions? What about 4 instructions? What would be 5 instructions? All right, so let's break down, since you all, I take it you all done that because you identified a pattern, right? So now what we're trying to do is that pattern is going to be used in the equation. So how did you start? What's that?
What do you mean by
how did you start? So you said you came up with 5. Where did 5 come from?
In the first cycle.
Yes, and what does this represent in the problem? Number of stages, correct? So now it's k, right? And then what else did you do after that? What's the next step in the pattern? Plus 1, right? So I have you're right. All right. So what is the what am I adding here? 1. But if I were to go, all right, give me the 15th instruction, right? How many is that going to take? All right, so this was the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, right? Right, because you kept adding n, right? Good. N is the number of instructions, right? So what does this give me? So if this is 5, and my first instruction is 1, what is that actually giving me? Is that correct? If it's the second, it's 5 plus 2 is that correct? How far off am I? So you, yeah, Alex, minus 1, very good. So it's TP plus K plus N, not over N, minus 1. And then it's probably, for those of you who are copying it down, you can see that the first two, number of cycles times cycle time, K plus N minus 1 times the pipeline cycle time. See how that works? So now, derive the equation for speed up. Oh, y'all thought you were done with that. So what is my speed up? Very good. Single cycle over pipeline time. So that just comes 10 times TSC over TP times K plus N minus 1. So there's your speed up. That's the difference between memorizing and understanding. Understanding, you see that problem, you're going to write that up there. But there's a difference. You see how understanding that will help you if you demonstrate that you understand the pipeline. So the last part is now throughput. Asking for its throughput. So I know it's speed up and it's throughput. So the way you do this is you just say at limit as n approaches infinity. Right? So limit as n approaches infinity. So that's going to infinity, right? And so is this. So is this. Okay, so these are going to, no, these are going to cancel out, right? So this is going to become TSC over TP, right? So what's the ratio there in an ideal pipe? How do you determine the pipeline time? Correct. Very good. Instead of the right. It's some of the stages. That's the key thing I'm looking for. Huh? So how am I breaking this down? Finding the stage. As opposed to all the stages. So I'm doing one stage instead of all the stages. So what's the ratio going to be? No, not 1 to 1. So I'm comparing all the stages versus one stage. What's my ratio going to be? What's that? N is the number of instructions. Okay. Okay. The whole purpose of pipelining is to obtain an ideal speed up of K, where K is the number of stages. So in MIPS, what's my ideal speed up? 5. Very good. 1 out of 40, not bad. Do you see how that works? Am I gonna try to? I'm gonna want. I'll spend the next couple of minutes just explaining this. This will be where the assignments cut off. Is 5.6. So it'd be 5.2 through 5.6 in TGO 5.13, 5.16. All right. So that's your homework. right, so for the next couple of minutes, so here's your basic single cycle data path. Here's how it's being broken down into these little dots. So now what we're doing is we're going to add the buffers between them. So these little notations, IFID, ID execute, is breaking up the stages, right? So what happens, you're going to put the instruction here, clock cycle ends, then we go to our registers, put the results from sign extended RD1, RD2 on the buffer, then we go to the multiplexer, put everything on the buffer, then everything's put into data memory, right? And then the last buffer we go back, right? Instruction fetch, everything in blue is what's being used. Instruction decode, all right, so this is why I wanted to cover this in today's lecture. So the difference is, you see how it's writing first? In MIPS, we're going to hammer this a lot next lecture. In MIPS, we use write then read capability of the register. What that means is we're going to write to the registers first and then read from them. We want to have the most up-to-date value of a copy of the register, right? So we want to update it immediately, as soon as possible. Otherwise, we have to insert things known as stalls. So execution stage, we get everything from the ALU. We have our ALU source, shift left by 2, so we have our byte addressing. We calculate our PC plus 4, which would eventually go back here. But we store everything on these buffers in between the pipeline stages. And then here, we would actually be writing or reading from data memory and putting these results on that buffer. And then write back is here. So we want to write first. We want to write first and then read. Yes?
When it takes and reads back to another place, like when it comes out of data memory and moves back to the registers, is there a potential that it could cause a hazard?
Yes. Yes. And on that note, we'll stop lecture because we'll start with pipeline hazards next lecture. In short, I was glad you asked.